Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all my wonderful students. Welcome back to Subject English Class 7. We continue today with Unit 8 Fire, Friend and Foe. In our previous video, we have seen what is fire, which three things are needed to make fire, why fire is a good servant and a bad master. These things we have learned in our previous video. Now, we have seen in previous that which three things are needed to make fire. Today we will learn which three things are needed to put out the fire. Just as three things are needed to start a fire. Which three things are needed to start a fire, to make a fire? Fuel, oxygen and heat. That we have learned in previous video. We have seen many examples also. Now look at here. There are three main ways in which a fire can be put out. So today we will learn that which three things are needed to extinguish fire, to put out the fire. Put out means bujana, which three things are needed to extinguish fire. In each, one of the three things needed for burning is taken away. In each, one of the three things needed for burning is taken away. Which important? That burning is taken away means you have to take out the fuel. Fuel means burning material. A material that produces heat or power, usually when it is burnt. So we have to take out the fuel first. Now students, open everybody page number 116. Now look at here example. For example, we can take away the fuel. If the fire has no fuel to feed on, no burning can take place. We often let a fire die out simply by not adding more fuel to it. So what's the first important point to put out the fire? That we have to take out the fuel. If the fire has no fuel, so definitely the burning cannot take place. So that's why the first thing to put out the fire is to take out the fuel. The second way of putting out a fire is to prevent oxygen from reaching it. No supply of oxygen means no fire. Small fires can be put out or smothered with a damp blanket or a sack. This stops oxygen reaching the burning material. Sometimes carbon dioxide is just used to extinguish fire. It does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material. What's the second point to put out the fire? To prevent oxygen. What's the meaning of prevent? Prevent means to stop. To stop the oxygen from reaching near that fire. If there is no supply of oxygen means there is no fire. Small fires can be put out or smothered. What is the meaning of smothered? Put out, bujha dena, with a damp blanket. Damp means wet. This damp means wet. With wet blanket or a sack. Sack means jute bag. Jute bag. This stops oxygen reaching the burning material. So when you use this wet blanket or sack, that time also you can control the oxygen to reach near that fire. So, like this you can prevent the fire or you can stop the fire. Sometimes carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire. Extinguish means put out. It does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material. So it can stop the oxygen to reach near that material, near that fuel. First, we have to take out the fuel. Second, that we have to stop the oxygen to reach near that burning material. Now we'll see the third one. The third way of putting out a fire is to remove the heat. Yes, we have seen that oxygen is very important to make a fire. Fuel is very important to make a fire, and heat and light is very important to make a fire. So what we have to do when we have to extinguish fire, when we have to stop fire, we have to remove these three things one by one. So students, it's opposite things that we have to do to stop the fire. I hope students that it's clear to you that these three things are very important to make fire. Same, these three things are very important to put out the fire. So we have to remove one by one these three things so we can easily stop the fire. The third way of putting out a fire is to remove the heat. If the temperature can be brought down below the flash point, the fuel stops burning. You blow on a burning matchstick or a candle to put it out. In doing so, you remove the hot air around the flame, bringing down its temperature below the flash point, and the candle goes out. Very nice example given here, related candle. That we have to remove the heat after. When we stop the oxygen, we have to after remove the heat, because we have learned about the flash point, that when the temperature go down below the flash point, so definitely the fuel stop burning. And here nice example given, related candle, that when you start to blow the burning matchstick or a candle to put it out, and when you're doing this, so what happened? The hot air around the flame also remove, and the temperature will go below the flash point. Sometimes water is spread on a fire. It absorbs heat from the burning fuel and lowers the temperature. The blanket of water also cuts off the supply of oxygen, and the fire is extinguished. So, sometimes it absorbs heat. It absorbs means adopts. It mixes heat from the burning fuel and lowers the temperature. When we spread the water, so what happens? It adopts heat from the burning fuel. The blanket of water also cuts off the supply of oxygen that we have learned in this paragraph only. And the fire is extinguished and the fire is put out. So three things we have learned here: to put out the fire, to extinguish the fire, or to stop the fire. Remember these new words. Extinguish means put out. Put out means to stop. So to stop means put out and extinguish. What we have to do to extinguish the fire? First we have to remove the fuel. Then we have to prevent. Prevent also meaning stop. To prevent the oxygen to reach near that fire. And what the another things, last one? To remove the heat surrounding that fire. So these three things are very important to stop the fire, to put out the fire, to extinguish the fire. And water is also very useful. When we spread the water on a fire, you can easily stop the heat to control. You can easily stop the heat. Now on the same page, look at the next paragraph. Some fires cannot be put out with water. Now earlier we have learned that water is very useful to control the fire. But in some kind of fire it's not useful. Now let's see which kind of fire. If water is sprayed onto an oil fire, the oil will float to the top of the water and continue to burn. This can be very dangerous because water can flow quickly, carrying the burning oil with it and spreading the fire. Water should also not be used on fires caused by electrical appliances. The person spraying water might receive an electric shock and be killed. A carbon dioxide extinguisher is the best thing to fight an electrical fire. So look at here, two type of fire when happen, that time water will not useful and it will cause more damage if you will use water. So which fire? The first oil fire and another is electrical fire. So remember student, when this type of fire will happen, electrical fire happen or sometimes the oil fire will happen, that time water will not help you. Maybe if you use water, so it will cause more problem. Some fires cannot be put out with water if water is sprayed onto an oil fire. Now look at one example. If you sprayed water on an oil fire, the oil will float means tärna, come up on the surface. Oil will float to the top of the water. We know very well. Just do one experiment, that just take water in one bowl. After just put one drop of oil in that bowl. So you know what happened? The oil will start to float on water. It will not go deep to water. It will just float on the water. So here the same things happen. Oil will float too. Oil started to float to top of the water and continue to burn. And it will not stop burning, but it continue burn only. This can be very dangerous because water can flow quickly. Yes, and what happened? Water easily flow. But oil started to flow on water, carrying the burning oil with it and spreading the fire. Carrying the burning oil started to burn more and more and spreading the fire. It will spread more fire. We are using water here for stop fire, but because water is flowed to the water, top of the water, and it will not stop burn. So what happened? The fire will spread more. Water should also not be used on fire caused by electrical appliances. Appliances means equipment. When the electric, some defect happen, some problem happen, and if you will use water, so it will more dangerous. What happened? The person spraying water might receive an electric shock and be killed. Yes. If some electric fire happen and if you sprayed water with a pipe or you just throw the water, might be very far. But if you sprayed also water, so what happened? Through that water, that electric fire will come to you and you will get a shock. The person who is doing this, that person will get a shock and the person will die because of this shock, this electric shock. A carbon dioxide extinguisher is the best thing to fight an electrical fire. So students, here this carbon dioxide extinguisher is very useful to control this type of electric fire and the oil fire. So students, I once again repeat this, that three things we have learned to control, to stop the fire, that is to take out the fuel, to stop the oxygen to reach near that fire, and the third one is that we have to remove the heat. And we have to use the water also to remove the heat. But in two type of fire, one is oil fire and one is the electrical fire, we have to not use water. Otherwise, it will create more problems for the person who's throwing the water on that oil or electric appliances. Now students, open page number 116. We spend millions of rupees each year in fighting fires, and we spend more trying to find new ways of preventing fires from happening and getting out of control. On the whole, we have learned rather well to control fire and put it to good use in our everyday life. So, our country government are doing very ways to fighting fires. Every year, millions of rupees they are spending to fight against the fire. And they are finding different ways. They are trying different ways, new ways to stop the fire. Because we know that fire is a bad master. Long ago, there were no firemen. Now look at here. Now another topic start. What we have learned previous? What is fire? Which three things are used to make out the fire? Then we have learned why fire is a bad master and a good servant. After we have learned which three things are needed to put out the fire, to extinguish the fire. After we have learned that water we cannot use in two type of fire, oil and electrical fire. Now look at here, another topic start. Long ago what happened? How they control the fire. Long ago there were no firemen. When fire broke out, everybody became a firefighter. People formed human chains. They still do if required, and passed buckets of water from a well or a pond to the blaze. Now there are laws about building construction which ensure that space is left between buildings to reduce the fire risk. Every new building, especially a public place, must ensure observance of fire prevention norms. Yes. So earlier what happened? Long time before what happened? There were no firemen. Now if the big fire problem happened, to control that we are calling fire brigades. They are known as fire brigades. But earlier there were no firemen. So what people done? What they have done? To stop it, to broke out. Broke out means took place. When fire broke out means took place. When fire took place, everybody, the people only became a firefighter. They made one chain, one by one. They are standing in a line and making one chain. Nowadays also, if required, they are doing this. And what they are doing, they are taking any vessel, maybe pitcher, buckets, bowl, anything. And they are passing to each other from the well, pond or blaze. So they are making chain. Blaze means flame of water. Flame of fire. So pond, they are taking water from the well or pond to the blaze, to that fire. Now there are laws about building construction. Nowadays, I told you before also, the government has made some rules, some laws that between two buildings there must be a space. The mosque left a space between two buildings. So, like this way, we can also reduce the fire. Now look at your picture. The chain of people, how they are controlling this. Look at the fire, this fire. Prevention norms. Bands of firefighting workers with a special equipment known as fire brigades. They are known as fire brigades. Are there to put out fires. Firefighters are highly trained people. They possess many skills. They cut off electricity supply, knock down dangerous walls, spray water and other materials to bring fire under control. So what these fire brigades are doing? They are known as fire brigades, firefighters, or you can say that fire brigades. So these firefighters, these fire brigades, what they are doing? They have many skills, they possess many skills, they belong many skills. And what they are doing? Fire brigades is a team. This firefighters team, what they are doing? They cut off electricity supply. They are well-trained people. And what they are doing? They cut off the electricity supply on the risk of their body. They are doing this risk, knock down dangerous walls. Spray water and other materials to bring fire under control. They are also trained in first aid. They are trained people for the first aid. First aid means primary care. If any person get injury, they also have some primary care for that person. They help that person at least instant recovery they can easily get. Instant medicine or anything, whatever cream, tube, whatever is needed for the person who injured by fire. So they are well-trained people and they are doing these all things to control fire. Now students, we continue at page number 118. So open everybody. It's very interesting lesson about this fire, how it's a friend, how it's enemy. When you use it in a proper way, that time it's very useful and you are a master. It's your servant. But if it's out of control, so it's become your bad master. Now we continue. They can help people suffering from burns or from the effects of smoke. So they have some first aid facility too. They are well-trained people. These firefighters are well-trained people. They can prevent the fire also. Even they can help those who got some injury from this fire. The discovery of fire and its uses helped early man to cope with nature better and gradually adopt a settled mode of life. Fire is still worshipped in many parts of the world. Fire is indeed a friend, but as we know, it can be a dangerous enemy once it gets out of control. The discovery of fire and its uses helped early man to cope with nature. Cope means to deal with nature, to manage with nature. Better and gradually adopt. Gradually means by and by. Dheere dheere, slowly slowly. Adopt a settled mode of life. Established a settled mode of life. Fire is still worshipped in many parts of the world. That we know very well, because in Bharuch also living some Parsi people, and you know that they are worshipping fire. Even many people are worshipping fire. Fire is indeed a friend. Definitely, it's our friend. We are making delicious food by using it. We are using electricity in our home. You know, when the electricity cut one day or 1 hour, we are feeling it's too hot. We cannot able to see at night if there is no electricity. So it's a very useful, it's our friend. Without it, we are not imagining our life. Without electricity, we cannot imagine our life. Fire is indeed a friend, so it's our good friend. As we know, it can be a dangerous enemy. And yes, if it's out of control, it's not in your control, that time it's become your dangerous enemy. That time you cannot control when you did not control it. When you haven't any idea to control it, that time it create a great problems in our life. So students, it's very interesting lesson. Learn this all things which I talk to you, which I say to you while learning, by explaining the lesson. So students, I hope that your concept must be clear. Still, if you have any doubts, you can write in the comment box. I'll try to solve it, maybe here in the description, in a comment box only, or maybe in the next video. Thank you all and have a great day.